right. I want to talk to you today, just a little video to talk about some of the first pistols I ever bought. I'm going to talk about the first three handguns that I ever purchased. Show them to you, tell you a little bit about them, and tell you why that's the choices I made. You know, if you're buying your first gun, and especially if you're young, you don't have a lot of money, your first handgun, you put a lot of thinking into it, and you want to buy something that's pretty versatile, that you can do a lot of things with, from self-defense to hunting with it, and of course do a lot of shooting with it. My first choice on the day that I turned 21, I went and put this bad boy here in layaway. This is a Smith & Wesson Model 19 Combat Magnum. It's a K-frame. I will tell you, it looks to be in awesome condition, but I have literally shot tens of thousands of rounds through this Smith & Wesson revolver. Now I will say that most of them were 38 specials and 38 special plus P. Very few 357s have been shot through this revolver. I would say probably not more than 4 or 5 boxes of 50. So as you can tell, it's in really good looking shape, and that's because I sent it back to Smith & Wesson a few years ago and had it reblued, and they did an awesome job. They made this gun look like brand new, and ended up they had to replace the cylinder as well, because back years ago I had put it in a holster under a truck seat, and I don't know if that holster, I think that holster maybe had some brake fluid or something like that, something a little corrosive to metal, and it actually etched some parts on the cylinder. And Smith & Wesson, when they sent this back to me, they said that they had tried to buff out the etching on that cylinder, and they couldn't, so they fitted me a brand new cylinder, and still got the same trigger, still got the same hammer. I mean, to me, that just feels absolutely beautiful. Okay, so this one was the one I bought. I bought it at Homestead's in Union City, which is Ace Hardware, which I thought was pretty cool, because the first 3 letters in this serial number, this was made during the times when Smith & Wesson had a 3-letter prefix. The first 3 letters in this serial number are ACE, so I thought that was pretty cool. This gun, brand new in 1984, cost me $239 plus tax. Seems like a super good deal now. That was a lot of money back in 1984. This gun was actually manufactured. If you look at the serial number, the gun was manufactured in 1983. So it hadn't been in the store very long when I put it in layaway April of 1984, and of course got it out in just a couple of weeks. Couldn't wait to get it out. The next gun I bought was just about a month later, and couldn't afford to buy one of these brand new, but I happened to be at Hills Hardware in Union City, and they had one used, and I put it in layaway of May of 1984, and it is a Colt Mark IV Series 70 government model in 45 auto. This is the one I call Betsy. You can see how the bluings wore. This is actually Betsy's third She's on her third bluing, okay? So you can tell I use this gun a lot. Tens of thousands of rounds downrange. Now you'll notice I put bigger sights on it. You'll also notice I put a beaver tail grip safety. I did pick one made by Wilson back in the, I just shot it and got hammer bite until, the early 90s. And I got one made by Wilson where you didn't have to cut the beaver to round the radius off on the beaver tail. And shot it like that for years, and it's been a good gun. And of course I bobbed the hammer. You can see where I bobbed the hammer. It's also had some time in the mid 90s. I had a Wilson's barrel bushing fitted, and Jeff Wiley did that for me at Specialty Arms in Laverne. This gun was pretty much my company. You also notice it has an ambidextrous safety. This gun was pretty much my constant companion for the first 10 years of me owning handguns. I mean, me and this gun became pretty much inseparable. Now, pretty much a safe queen. I can still shoot it well though. I feel like I can hit whatever I can see with it, so it's been a dandy. The third handgun I bought, and that was not in, if it was in 84, it was in late 84, or it was early 1985. I know I still hadn't reached the age of 22 when I bought it. So if it was in 85, it was real early in 85. And that's this Smith & Wesson Model 10, nickel plated, with a 2-inch barrel. I bought it brand new at Homestead, simply because I found that I needed something a little smaller than these two sometimes. So I bought this. And you talk about a pistol, a handgun that's been around and has been an absolute joy for my family. I mean, my mother carried this for a while. My wife carried this for a while. And just such a good shooting revolver. And the trigger is just so sweet. I mean, I can't even describe it, other than to say it's definitely before Smith & Wesson made triggers for lawyers. They were making them for shooters back then. And man, this little gun, I mean, it's factory. I have not done a single thing to the trigger other than shot it a lot. And this is the one I used to amaze people by hitting targets at 100 yards with. Y'all, 2 inches worth of barrel is enough to stabilize, put enough spin on that bullet to stabilize the flight of it. It's not that longer guns are more accurate. It's just that longer guns are easier to shoot well. And the reason why is you can see from this sight to this sight, we have a very long sight radius. Very easy to see a misalignment in this long a distance, okay? On this revolver, the sight radius is actually less than half of that 6-inch barrel. So from here to here, much easier to misalign these sights as the trigger breaks. So we don't know which one of these guns is more accurate. I can tell you which one is easier to shoot well, and that's this one. But it's not because the barrel's so short. It's because the sight radius is short. If you'll take the time to learn a good double action trigger pull, this gun can be just as accurate as anything you've got in your safe. You'll notice that sometime 1985, 86, I took a Dremel tool and cut the hammer spur off of this. Essentially, I made a double action only Model 10. Now, you know I'm a big fan of wood grips, and I could not find a wood grip that felt good to me. I spent a lot of money, a lot of time searching, and you wouldn't believe what I found that felt the best. This grip was made by Uncle Mike's, and at the time I think it was about $11, and it was called a boot grip. And man, I'll tell you what, it just fit me perfect, and that's what I've kept on it all these years, and that's probably what'll be on it when I die and it passes on to the next Spalding. It's just, it fits me really well, and it's small enough that it hides away good. And this just been an awesome revolver. I really love it. And these three guns probably mean more to me than any other handguns I own. And it's just because they were my first. I chose what to buy, and I think I chose well. And I chose quality stuff. Even though a brand new Colt was out of my price range, I wasn't afraid to buy a used Colt, and never regretted that decision. I will tell you this, I'll tell you that the year of manufacture on this gun, like I said, is 1983. The year of manufacture on this gun is 1982. The serial number starts with an 8D. And this says Model 10-7. Now I want to show you something funny about these dash marks and the model designations, okay? Because you'll notice this gun was made in 83, does not have a pinned barrel, okay? This gun was made in 82, does not have a pinned barrel, and the serial number is, I'm sorry, this serial number on this is 15D. 15D is the first three letters of the serial number. No pinned barrel. It says in the frame that it's a Model 10-7, which means the 7th revision. Now I'm going to show you another special revolver to me. It's special because this is my granddad, Floyd Spalding. This is what we called his Tennessee revolver. This is also a nickel-plated Model 10. The first two numbers of its serial number is 8D, so that would indicate that it's older than this one. This one also has a pinned barrel, so that's another indication that it's older. This one was actually manufactured in 1981. According to according to everything I could find, this was manufactured in 1981. Now what's funny about this was manufactured in 1982, no pinned barrel, serial number starts with 15D. This was manufactured in 1981, pinned barrel, serial number 8D, so you see nothing wrong with that so far, right? If you flip it over, this is a Model 10-8, so it's the 8th revision. Don't ask me why. I don't know. What I'm guessing is that they have a big box of unfinished frames and unfinished barrels at that time sitting in the shop, and whenever anybody got ready to do a new revolver, they'd say, I'll tell you what, let's make a nickel one. So they'd pick out a barrel, they'd pick out a frame, and they'd pick out a cylinder, and they'd have them all nickeled, and then they would start working on them and getting everything fitted and working right. And so maybe the serial number doesn't have as much to do with the dash number. I don't know. It's just it seemed odd to me. But this, why we call this my granddad Floyd Spalding, we call this his Tennessee gun, is because he had a Smith & Wesson Combat Masterpiece in .38 Special that he dearly loved. And in Michigan, you have to register your guns. You have to have a green card for every handgun you own, which ought to be illegal According to the Gun Control Act of 1968, registration is illegal. Uh, he would bring his gun with him when he traveled, of course, but as per the law back then, you had to have it locked and unloaded in a case. And while he was down here, a friend of Dad's had this revolver for sale. And Granddad really liked it. So, and he knew that by the laws of Michigan, there's no way he could buy it here and take it back up there and get a green card for it. So he bought it here and he left it with us. And when he came down here, he'd shoot it. And I tried to tell him that if I bought the gun and paid for the gun and gave it to him as a gift, being his grandson, that he could take it back to Michigan and he could get a green card on it, but he didn't want to risk it. So this gun stayed here and he would shoot it when he was here. And so I called it his Tennessee 38. And speaking of a combat masterpiece, I'll show you another one that I picked up that I think is an awesome revolver. This is a K-22, what later became known as a Model 18. This is a combat masterpiece. It's got a 4-inch barrel. Of course, it's got the good adjustable sights. It's got the target hammer and target trigger. It's a 22 long rifle. You can see by the size of the holes in the cylinder. Talk about a super nice gun. This gun is a little older version on these. This gun was actually, according to the serial number, which starts with an 8K, which the K frames usually have, or the kit guns, the K guns, K-22s, K-38s, they all had a K somewhere in the serial number, either right at the front or behind a number designation. So the serial number on this is a 8K. It is basically the size, the same gun as the 38 Special Model 15 Combat Masterpiece, which is what my grandfather's Michigan gun was. It was a Model 15 Combat Masterpiece. And this gun was actually manufactured in 1975. It has the pinned barrel. It also has the pin back here to hold in the 22 firing pin, because unlike Smith & Wesson's that normally had a hammer nose, these K-22s had a firing pin in place in the frame, and the hammer contacts the firing pin, not like the hammer nose on the center fire revolver. So but all these guns here, you know, people really like the post-war Smith & Wesson revolvers. I think that the post-World War II stuff's highly overrated. I'll be honest with you, I think some of the best revolvers that were made by Smith & Wesson were made probably in the mid to late 60s through the early 80s. I think with technology and machining becoming what it was, I think these guns are much better guns as far as consistency and accuracy as the older guns are. I had the opportunity to measure the chambers of a triple lock that was made the first year triple locks were made. I believe it was 1910, and the chamber specs on that triple lock were absolutely horrible, and nobody was going to be shooting a really good group out of that triple lock, I'll tell you. But as you can tell, I love my Smith & Wessons. These aren't all of them. These are just some of the first that I bought and some of the oldest ones, you know, in my collection. I don't have any back there, 1955, 1945, 1918, nothing like that. All of mine start from about the 70s and go forward, because that's when I was of gun buying age. So, and boy, I'll tell you what, there's every one of them here that just means a lot to me, and they will be passed on through my family for generations to come, and that's a cool thing. This one that I call Granddad's Tennessee gun is actually, I gave that to my son. When I kick off, this one goes to Ethan because his middle name is Floyd. He was the first grandson, and so he'll get that one. And I suspect Savannah will probably like this one because it's more her speed. And of course, Bud will probably end up with this one. And but these being my first three guns that I bought the first year that I was 21, they've always meant a lot to me. And I have shot literally between the three. I'm not afraid at all to say hundreds, thousands of rounds through them. They've just been awesome guns, and I enjoy them so much that they have brought much enjoyment to my life, and I hope they will continue to do that to my family for years to come. And I appreciate y'all watching this video. Click subscribe and click the bell so you'll know when I do a new one. Gonna start trying to do one, like I say, every week. Hey, thanks for watching.